Have you ever stood over a plant in your garden, looking at its drooping stems and pale leaves, wondering exactly where things went wrong? It is one of the most frustrating experiences for any gardener. You provide water, you make sure it gets sunlight, yet the plant seems stuck in slow motion. This is precisely what happened with a particular chili plant in my garden. It was still alive, but its growth had ground to a complete halt. The older, lower leaves were beginning to take on a sickly, pale yellow hue, while the new growth at the top remained tiny, curled, and fragile. Most gardeners don't know this, but when a plant starts showing these specific signs, it is communicating with you in a highly sophisticated chemical language. The yellowing of older leaves while the top leaves stay green is a classic symptom of mobile nutrient deficiency, most notably nitrogen. Because nitrogen is highly mobile within the plant's vascular system, the plant will actively sacrifice its older, established foliage to send whatever remaining nutrients it has up to the vulnerable new growth. It is a survival mechanism, a desperate triage system. But if you do not step in to help, the plant will eventually exhaust its reserves, and the stall will become permanent. When faced with this issue, the temptation is to run to the nearest garden center and buy a heavy, synthetic chemical fertilizer. But seasoned growers know that dumping harsh chemicals onto a stressed, weakened root system can do far more harm than good. It can burn the tender root hairs, disrupt the delicate pH of the soil, and kill off the beneficial microorganisms that keep the soil alive. Instead, seasoned gardeners often turn to the wisdom of nature, using simple, organic ingredients that work in harmony with the plant's natural biology. Today, we are going to explore a highly effective, gentle, organic recipe that uses just 3 simple ingredients you can easily find. This is not a synthetic quick fix, but a nourishing tonic designed to wake up the soil, stimulate root development, and help the plant recover its natural vigor. Here is where the real secret begins, and it starts with a plant that you might already have growing on your windowsill: fresh aloe vera. Most people know aloe vera as a soothing balm for sunburns, but in the world of organic gardening, it is regarded as a powerful biostimulant. Aloe vera is packed with over 75 active compounds, including vitamins, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, and salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is particularly fascinating because it acts as a natural plant hormone that triggers what is known as systemic acquired resistance. In simple terms, it wakes up the plant's internal defense system, helping it fight off environmental stress, pathogens, and transplant shock. To begin this preparation, you will need a healthy, mature leaf of fresh aloe vera, roughly 10 to 15 centimeters long, which is about 4 to 6 inches. When you harvest the leaf, make sure to cut it close to the base of the parent plant. The first step, which many people skip, is to wash the outside of the leaf thoroughly under clean, cool water. This removes any dust, debris, or wild yeast strains that might interfere with our solution later on. Once clean, lay the leaf flat on a clean cutting board. Using a sharp knife, carefully slice off the tapered tip and the sharp, spiny edges along both sides of the leaf. Now, you want to separate the clear, gelatinous inner gel from the thick, green outer skin. The goal here is to keep only the pure inner gel and remove as much of the green skin as possible. The green skin contains aloin, a bitter compound that, while harmless in small amounts, is not what we want to concentrate in our plant tonic. We want the clean, nutrient-dense polysaccharide gel from the core. It is vital to understand that aloe vera is not a complete fertilizer on its own. It does not contain high levels of macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium, and it cannot replace a balanced, long-term soil nutrition program. In this specific formula, we are utilizing the aloe gel as a supportive organic catalyst, a biological booster shot rather than the primary source of plant food. Once you have extracted the clear gel, place it directly into a blender and add about 200 milliliters of clean, unchlorinated water. If you are using municipal tap water, it is a good idea to let it sit out in an open container for 24 hours beforehand to allow the chlorine to dissipate, as chlorine can harm the beneficial elements we are trying to cultivate. The purpose of blending the gel with water is incredibly simple. It breaks down the thick, viscous structure of the aloe gel, allowing it to dissolve and disperse evenly throughout our final mixture. You do not need to blend it until it is completely smooth or frothy. A few short pulses are more than enough to break the gel down into a uniform, liquid state. Once blended, pour this pale, slightly bubbly liquid into a clean cup and set it aside. Our first powerhouse ingredient is ready, but the real magic happens when we combine it with our second ingredient, which introduces the essential building blocks of life back into the soil. With our aloe vera liquid prepared, we now move on to the second, and perhaps most critical, nutritional component of our natural tonic, soybeans. While aloe vera provides the biological spark, hormones, and vitamins, soybeans provide the raw material that the plant desperately needs to rebuild its cellular structure and kickstart vegetative growth. Most gardeners don't know this, but soybeans are one of the richest plant-based sources of organic nitrogen and complex amino acids available. When a plant is stalling and showing yellow leaves, it is crying out for nitrogen, which is the primary driver of chlorophyll production. Without chlorophyll, the plant cannot efficiently perform photosynthesis, meaning it cannot convert sunlight into energy. By introducing soybean extract, we are delivering a rich pool of easily accessible amino acids directly to the root zone. For this recipe, we will use approximately 2 tablespoons of roasted soybeans. It is highly recommended to use roasted soybeans rather than raw ones, as the roasting process helps break down some of the complex, hard-to-digest proteins and anti-nutritional factors, making the nutrients far more accessible to the soil biology. Before we soak them, we need to grind the roasted soybeans into a fine powder. You can use a clean coffee grinder, a spice mill, or a mortar and pestle for this step. Grinding the soybeans is a crucial step that many beginner gardeners overlook. By pulverizing the beans, we drastically increase the overall surface area. This allows the water to come into maximum contact with the organic compounds locked inside the soybean particles during the soaking process, ensuring a much more thorough extraction. Once your soybeans are finely ground, transfer the powder into a clean glass jar or container and add 500 milliliters of clean water. Give the mixture a vigorous stir to ensure all the ground soybean particles are fully suspended in the liquid and there are no dry clumps settling at the bottom. Now, we must practice a bit of patience. Let this mixture sit and soak at room temperature for 12 to 24 hours. During this soaking period, a fascinating biological process takes place. The water acts as a solvent, gently drawing out the highly soluble amino acids, peptides, proteins, and trace minerals from the soybean powder. It is important to clarify that this is a simple, clean water extraction process, not a full anaerobic fermentation. We are not trying to create a deeply fermented, strong-smelling fertilizer like soy amino acid liquid, which can take weeks to develop and requires careful management. Instead, we are creating a mild, fresh organic extract that is gentle enough to be applied to a highly stressed plant without any risk of burning the roots or throwing the soil chemistry out of balance. After the 12 to 24-hour soaking window has passed, you will notice that the liquid has taken on a milky, rich, cream-colored appearance, and the solid soybean residue has settled to the bottom of the container. What happened next surprised me when I first started using this method years ago. The water itself becomes incredibly rich in soluble organic nitrogen. To prepare this extract for our final mixture, we must separate the liquid from the solid organic residue. Place a fine mesh strainer or a piece of clean cheesecloth over a clean container and slowly pour the mixture through. Take your time with this step. Thorough filtering is essential because we want to minimize the amount of solid, undissolved soybean particles remaining in our final solution. While these solid particles do contain nutrients, if left in the liquid, they can clog your watering can, attract unwanted pests like fungus gnats to the surface of your soil, or begin to rot on the surface, creating unpleasant odors. Once strained, you are left with a beautiful, smooth, nutrient-rich, organic liquid extract. It is mild, completely natural, and packed with the molecular building blocks your stalled plant is craving. We now have our biostimulant in the form of aloe vera and our nitrogen-rich amino acid base in the form of the soybean extract. But to make this system truly work, we need to activate the soil itself. We need to feed the invisible workforce that lives beneath the surface, and that brings us to our third and final ingredient. Now that we have our biostimulant and our amino acid extract ready, we are going to introduce the final ingredient that ties this entire organic system together: molasses. This is the step many people skip, yet it is the secret weapon used by master organic growers worldwide to bring tired soil back to life. To understand why molasses is so critical, we have to look at the soil not as inert dirt, but as a living, breathing ecosystem. In a single teaspoon of healthy garden soil, there are billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes. These microbes form a symbiotic relationship with your plant's roots. They act as a microscopic digestive system, breaking down complex organic matter, like our soybean extract, and converting it into simple ionic forms of nutrients that the plant's roots can actually absorb. However, these hard-working microbes require energy to do their jobs, and their primary source of energy is carbon, specifically in the form of simple sugars. When a plant is healthy, it naturally pumps sugars down through its roots into the soil to feed these microbes. But when a plant is stressed, stalled, and yellowing, its photosynthetic capacity drops, meaning it can no longer produce enough sugars to support the soil microbiome. The microbial population starves, soil activity grinds to a halt, and the plant stalls even further. It is a downward spiral. By adding just 1 teaspoon of molasses to our mixture, we are providing an immediate, easily digestible carbon buffet for the beneficial soil microbes. This sudden influx of high-quality carbohydrates sparks a massive population boom and a surge in microbial activity. As the microbes consume the sugars, they wake up, multiply, and begin rapidly processing the nutrients from the soybean extract and aloe vera, making them instantly bioavailable to the struggling plant's root system. It is important to use only a small amount, just 1 teaspoon. Too much sugar in the soil can temporarily upset the balance of the soil food web or attract ants and other pests. We want to stimulate, not overwhelm. Now, let's assemble our master organic tonic. In a large clean pitcher or bucket, combine the prepared aloe vera liquid, the strained soybean extract, and the 1 teaspoon of molasses. Stir the mixture gently to dissolve the molasses completely. At this stage, the solution is still quite concentrated. To make it perfectly safe and gentle for our delicate, stressed plant, we need to dilute it. Add clean, room-temperature water to the mixture until the total volume reaches approximately 2 liters. Give the solution one final, gentle stir. What you are left with is a beautifully balanced, dilute organic mixture. It has a soft, earthy aroma, a light amber color, and is packed with biostimulants, amino acids, enzymes, and microbial food. But before you run out to pour this over your struggling plant, there is a critical rule of plant care that you must follow. This is the exact moment where many well-intentioned gardeners Make a mistake that can prove fatal to an already weakened plant. Before applying any liquid solution, you must check the moisture level of your soil. Gently insert your finger about an inch or two into the soil around the plant, or use a moisture meter if you have one. You want to feel if the root zone is dry, damp, or waterlogged. If the soil is still saturated and wet from a previous watering or rain, do not add any of this solution. This is incredibly important. When a plant's growth stalls, its water consumption drops dramatically because it is not actively growing or transpiring. If you continue to pour liquid onto a root zone that is already waterlogged, you will drown the roots. Plant roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. In saturated soil, all the oxygen pockets are filled with water, creating anaerobic conditions. This causes the roots to suffocate, rot, and die, making it impossible for the plant to absorb any nutrients, no matter how rich your fertilizer is. If your soil is too wet, wait a few days. Let the top layer of soil dry out until it is barely damp to the touch. On my stalled chili plant, the top layer of soil had finally started to dry out and was no longer soggy. This meant the soil was in the perfect receptive state to receive our nutrient-rich tonic. Now, we are ready for the application. With our soil checked and verified as ready, we can proceed with the application of our organic tonic. Because this is a highly active biostimulant solution, we do not need to saturate the entire pot until water drains out the bottom. A small, targeted dose is far more effective and safer for a recovering plant. For a medium-sized pot, such as the one my chili plant is growing in, we want to use about 150 to 200 milliliters of the solution. This is roughly 3/4 of a cup. When you apply the liquid, pour it slowly and directly onto the soil surface, forming a circle around the root zone. Avoid pouring the liquid directly onto the main stem of the plant, and do not splash it onto the leaves. The goal is to deliver the nutrients to the active feeding roots, which spread outward from the base of the plant, rather than wetting the foliage or the crown, which can sometimes invite fungal pathogens or mold in humid conditions. Once applied, let the plant sit and continue growing as usual. Do not add any other fertilizers and do not overwater. Let nature take its course and observe the plant closely. The results became visible just days later, but it is important to understand that this is a gradual, natural recovery, not an overnight chemical miracle. Around day 3 or 4, you might not see much change on the surface, but beneath the soil, the microbes are feast-growing, and the root hairs are beginning to absorb the newly available amino acids. By day 7, the first real signs of transformation begin to show. The pale, yellowing leaves at the bottom of the plant will stop deteriorating. They may not turn completely dark green again if they were too far gone, but the spreading yellow halo will halt. More importantly, look at the very top of the plant. The new, young leaves that were once tiny, curled, and stalled will begin to expand. They will take on a rich, deep, healthy green color, showing that chlorophyll synthesis has successfully restarted. By day 14, the change is undeniable. What happened next surprised me with its sheer vigor. The plant did not just recover. It began to push out strong, healthy new shoots from the leaf nodes along the main stem. The stems themselves appeared thicker and more resilient, and the overall stature of the plant looked robust and full of life. It is vital to maintain a realistic and grounded perspective on gardening. A simple homemade mixture, no matter how nutrient-dense or scientifically sound, cannot replace the fundamental pillars of plant health. Your plants still require the correct amount of daily sunlight, well-aerated and free-draining soil, proper watering habits, and a consistent, long-term organic nutrition plan. Think of this 3-ingredient tonic not as a magic wand, but as a gentle, supportive hand to help your plant get back on its feet so it can thrive on its own. If you decide to try this formula at home, always remember to start with a highly dilute solution, just as we did here. Observe how your specific plant responds over the following days. Every plant, soil type, and microclimate is slightly different, and the key to becoming a master gardener lies in your ability to observe, listen, and respond to the unique needs of your green companions. There is an immense sense of satisfaction in taking simple, everyday ingredients from your kitchen and garden, understanding the science behind how they interact, and using them to bring a struggling plant back to vibrant life. It connects us deeper to the natural cycles of the earth and reminds us that sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones. If you found value in this deep dive into organic plant care and want to learn more practical, time-tested secrets to help your garden thrive naturally, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts, questions, or your own homemade fertilizer recipes in the comments below. I would love to hear about your gardening journey. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gardening.